Hey gang, how y'all doing out there anyway? So hope you all had a nice Christmas. Hope you got some good gifts and you had a nice time with your families and all. And anyway, I was just gonna show off a couple of gifts I gotten for Christmas. So you're looking at one right now. This is a knife cleaning cloth from We Knife Civivi Sencut. And yeah, and it's really nice, like it has a few wee knives on there and a couple Civivis, and has a little barcode there, like you can scan, little thing you can scan with your phone to links you to the Wee Knives website. And yeah, and I really like this thing. This thing was a pleasant surprise. You can also use this as a mouse pad, and but mostly, yeah, you can use it like if you need something to put your knives on while you're cleaning them. It's pretty nice thing. You just sit on your table, and you want to you want to oil them, and then wipe them down. I mean, it's nice for that. So yeah, this thing, yeah, this was definitely a nice piece. Very pleasant surprise. And next up, I is a couple books anyway. A couple books that I've had my eyes on for a while. I'd been meaning to get these. Just never really got around to it. But anyway, yeah, so I got these as a gift. I got Switchblades of Italy and Antique American Switchblades. Anyway, they're both really nice books. I'm, really, there's lots of really, this one here, I mean, it's by Tim Zinzer, Dan Fuller, Neil Punchard, and it's with photography by Ben Salzman. And this one, it goes back, it like details the history of the Italian switchblades, and it's very thorough. There's a lot of like really interesting information here. A lot of stuff I didn't know before. And it gives details on all the different makers. And going back. And just there's like pictures of different knives in here, and there's like a little, this page here like gives a little, like it's like a it's a this little, that details the history when it goes back. Actually, it's so Italian automatic knives, they actually go back to 1760 here. It says 1760 first Italian automatic knives are made, and it like goes on through the years, talks about then the emergence of like the of the knife makers in Montiago, Italy, and then talks here in the 40s, about like the American soldiers returning home, from returning home from the war, like with some Italian stilettos, and goes on some other like moments, other like other points here, like like when 1958, like when the U.S. passed the Switchblade Act, and then here in the 1960s, like then when the transitional period, like in the Italian switchblade making, began, and then and other things like like Indiana cutlery, talks about, and when the bolster release, switchblades, when those became, became the industry standard, and then like put up to the 80s, like with the emergence of like the bolster release, like switchblades, and then the kit knives, like from different Asian countries, and then finally all the way up here to 2000s, like when with the emergence of like AKC and the Beltramis, which we all know today. So yeah, some really interesting, info there. A lot of, a lot of history to explore. So yeah, and yeah, and it's just, there's some really beautiful knives in here, and a lot of cool stuff, like here, like talks about, there's the talks about the old pick locks, and yeah, and for you read further, it talks there it goes into like the history of like the Latamas, and there's lots of really nice, lots of really cool, like lots of really cool knives in here. Like some like the pistol switchblades, letter openers, and these like sort of multi-tool switchblades that they made. And there's there's some stilettos, and and there's this old oval button knife, and and this Latama square button there. There's like, some of these things are really worth a lot now. And these fishtail stilettos, fishtail switchblades from Latama. There's a lot of lots of interesting history in here. Definitely a lot to explore. So yeah, and yeah, so this is a really nice book. It's one that I strongly recommend if you're into Italian switchblades, definitely. And next up, this one, Antique American Switchblades. It's by Mark Erickson, Identification and Value Guide. And this one's a really nice book too. It talks about here, the talks a little bit about the history, of American switchblades, and it talks about the collectability of all these knives, and what they're worth in mint condition. There's this here describes this details all the different blade shapes, and blade styles, and it's it gives entire grading systems on on the conditions of knives, and what for determining value and whatnot. And yeah, and this this thing's very helpful if these are the types of knives that you're into collecting, these old American switchblades. So yeah, yeah, definitely it also talks about all the different companies in here. There's Camillus, and here, and there's a little paratrooper knife, which I have one similar to that, except mine's a straight Walden. And there's actually some companies in here I had never heard of before, and on here, and here's Case. They made switchblades back in the day, and yeah, these ones are definitely worth a lot now. I mean, the value of them, mint value of these old Case switch lever lock switchblades, it's it's $3,100, and this one's $3,500. Yeah. So, and there's yeah, Cattaraugus Cutlery Company out of let's see, out of Little Valley, New York, and that's a company I'd never heard of before. Yeah, and there's some really cool knives, some old Flylock knives, and yeah, and there's these looks like keychain knives. Yeah, there's that, and yeah, and it's really these there's some a lot of research definitely went into this thing. Just there's a lot of really cool things to explore. There's the old cardboard, the old promotional slips, they used the displays they used to display in stores. The Sure Snaps, and yeah, Edgemaster goes and it talks about, and I think actually one of the knives I have is in here, if I can find it. It's an Imperial. Yeah, it actually, actually shows. Oh yeah, here, Imperial Knife Company. It's a candy stripe toothpick that I have, and it gives the value of it. This is how much it would be if I had one that was in mint condition. Mine's definitely not mint condition, but it's it still gives this. It's still good to know this anyway. So yeah, this is the knife that I have, and in mint condition, this knife would be worth $260. Which is pretty decent price. To be honest, I mean, it's definitely a lot more affordable compared to what some of these things are worth. It's pretty crazy. The amount some people will pay for these things. And there's an old old Jacomatic Imperial Schrade display stand there. Yeah, and there's others unique types of switchblades it talks about here, like the pull ball release switchblades, which were ones that you could realistically only open these with two hands, because like I said, the release mechanism there is on the back. It's that little ball you pull, so that's why they were called the pull balls. So pretty much it would be pretty hard to open it one-handed. It's kind of like the Mexican Edgeco switchblade I have that has that you release by holding it with one hand and pulling on a lanyard cord on the back. So yeah. Anyway, but those are still cool knives. Definitely worth it. Probably if you're into this type, collecting these types of old older American switchblades, and if you're into that, those, just for the historical factor and whatnot. I mean, it's they're some of these knives are quite valuable. And then here this talks about K-Bar, and there's the old K-Bar Grizzly switchblade. And the Grizzlies, these things are worth like $3,000. I mean, they're really valuable. These, so people really pay lots of money for these old these old Grizzlies. So there's another company, Keen Cutter, out of St. Louis. Keenwell Brown Manufacturing. I had never heard of them before, and there's George W. Korn, and these are an interesting kind of knife. These are kind of unusual. You don't see these too often, so that's pretty cool. And there's an LL Bean. They used to make knives. They made switchblades. And there's a swing guard style. And it had those little cutouts there, so the guard is where the guard can rest, as you can see. So it's like kind of curved, has that curvature, so it can fit around the top part of the handle there. So and there's a couple double blade ones, and this is by Norvell Shapley Hardware out of St. Louis. Lots of valuable information here if this is what you're into. Definitely, Press Button Knife Company. So both really nice books. Like definitely ones that I recommend if you're into American and Italian switchblades. So that's about it. Anyway. So y'all have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I'll see y'all in 2025.